Welcome to the deep dive. This is a story that, well, it really transcended the true crime genre. It became this global phenomenon, launching a pretty obscure Oklahoma zookeeper into a kind of celebrity status.
A status that continues even now while he's serving a pretty lengthy federal sentence.
Exactly. We are talking about Joseph Allen Maldonado, but you probably know him better as Joe Exotic or simply the Tiger King.
The media spectacle around him was frankly unprecedented. But the fame, the catchy songs, they often hide the very serious documented facts of his life and his crimes.
Right. And that's our mission today. We want to move past that sensationalized spectacle.
We're going to take the source material, the court records, the detailed journalism, all of it, and really analyze the factual history, his life, his business, his bizarre political ventures.
And most importantly, the precise details of the criminal conviction that landed him in prison.
Yeah, we're stripping away the theatrics, the flashy clothes, the YouTube rants.
The endless parade of tigers.
All of it to understand the actual trajectory of the man.
So before we jump into his whole history, let's just set the stage. A foundational snapshot of who he is right now, factually speaking.
Okay. So Joseph Allen Maldonado, who was born Joseph Allen Schreibogle in 1963, is an American media personality and, crucially, a convicted felon.
And for a long time, he ran that zoo.
For nearly 2 decades, yeah. From 1999 to 2018, he operated the Greater Wynwood Exotic Animal Park, the GW Zoo.
And where's he now?
He's currently incarcerated at Federal Medical Center, Fort Worth. His conviction is severe. It includes 2 counts of conspiracy to commit murder for hire.
Aimed at his rival, Carole Baskin.
Right. And alongside that, 17 federal charges. These are related to animal abuse and wildlife violations, specifically violations of the Lacey Act and the Endangered Species Act.
That's a very serious context. So let's start from the beginning. We need to look at his formative years, how a kid from Kansas ends up as the proprietor of one of the country's most notorious roadside zoos.
Well, the story starts in Garden City, Kansas. He was born Joseph Allen Schreibogle on March 5th, 1963. The family eventually moved to Texas, and he graduated from Pilot Point High School. And then, interestingly, soon after high school, he had a brief career in law enforcement.
Really? Law enforcement?
Yep. He served as chief of police in Eastvale, Texas. This was back in 1982.
It is just utterly surreal to picture the man who would later face a jury for murder for hire, starting out as a police chief.
It is. But the source material shows that even in these early years, there were already these profound conflicts, these really painful personal ruptures happening.
Right, especially with his family.
Absolutely. A defining moment was the fallout after his older brother, Yari, outed him as homosexual.
And that caused a huge rift.
A profound and irreparable rift with his father, Francis. The conflict was so severe, the rejection so deep, that his father made him promise something.
What was that?
That he would not attend his funeral.
Wow.
I mean, that level of alienation, the pain from that, it really seems to be a crucial element in understanding the toxic relationships and the need for dramatic public validation that would mark his entire life.
That's a tremendously heavy piece of context. And speaking of crafting a dramatic narrative, this period also includes a very controversial story. That police cruiser crash in 1985.
Right, and he's shared wildly different versions of this over the years.
Yeah, that's what's so strange about it.
This incident is a perfect example of his early pattern of self-mythologizing. He claimed over and over that he was severely injured when his cruiser crashed into a bridge.
But the story changed.
Dramatically. It all depended on who he was talking to and when. In 1997, he told the Dallas Morning News a pretty traditional cop story. He said he was forced off the road by another car during a drug investigation.
So in that version, he's the hero, the victim of criminals.
Precisely. But then, decades later, the story completely changes.
It became much darker, much more personal.
Exactly. By 2019, when he was speaking to Texas Monthly, he reframed the whole thing. He claimed the crash was actually a spontaneous suicide attempt.
A suicide attempt? Why?
He said he was depressed over his family's rejection and, the pressure of hiding his sexuality.
But is there any proof this crash even happened?
Well, that's the thing. What makes this so telling is an investigation that New York Magazine did in 2019. They interviewed people who knew him back then, family, local officials, and they couldn't find anyone who could actually recall the event.
Even though he had a photo, right?
He did. He presented a photograph of a wrecked car as proof, but nobody remembered it. So the truth of this whole traumatic origin story is highly questionable.
So we see the pattern right away. When the facts are inconvenient, a more dramatic, self-serving, and often contradictory story gets deployed.
And that desire for narrative control seems foundational to the Joe Exotic persona he'd later create.
So regardless of what really happened in '85, it did mark a turning point, a career change toward animals.
It did. Soon after this claimed incident, he moved to West Palm Beach, Florida. He started managing a pet store there.
And that's where the inspiration came from.
That's what he said. A friend who worked at a safari park would bring baby lions to the store. And Exotic credited handling those cubs, feeling their power, with inspiring him to work full-time with exotic animals.
So he brought that new interest back to Texas.
In 1986, he opened a pet shop in Arlington with his brother, Carole G.W. Wayne. And this is where he first really clashed with city administration. It was a precursor to his lifelong battle with authorities.
What was the issue?
He quickly found himself in conflict with Arlington officials over code violations, mostly signs and decorations. But critically, Exotic immediately framed this through the lens of persecution.
He blamed it on homophobia.
That's right. He said they were harassing him because he openly displayed gay pride symbols like U.S. flags with rainbow stripes. He was convinced the city was targeting him because of his sexual orientation.
So he was casting himself as a persecuted outsider fighting authority from the very beginning.
On the very first times, yes.
But the real heartbreaking catalyst that actually led to the GW Zoo was a tragedy involving his brother.
Yes. In 1997, his brother, Gerald Wayne, died in a car accident. It seems to have been the one family connection that was still intact and loving for him.
That must have been devastating.
It seems so. After GW's death, Exotic sold the pet shop. He used funds from his parents to buy a 16-acre farm in Wynwood, Oklahoma.
And that became the zoo.
2 years later, in 1999, he opened the Gerald Wayne Exotic Animal Memorial Park, the GW Zoo, dedicating it to his late brother. It started incredibly small with just 2 of GW's pets. It was literally a memorial.
Which makes its later descent into commercial exploitation even more jarring.
It's a remarkable origin story. A small memorial that would just balloon into this chaotic, internationally famous criminal enterprise.
Absolutely. The initial impulse was emotional, but the reality of running a big cat facility demands money, and that quickly dictated everything.
We move now into the GW Zoo's rapid expansion, the ruthless business model it required, and how Joseph Schreibvogel fully embraced the theatrical but highly effective Joe Exotic persona.
And the facility grew incredibly fast.
Exponentially. He got his first 2 tigers in 2000 after they were abandoned. And once you have a breeding population of big cats, the feeding costs are just astronomical.
So he had to find a serious revenue stream.
And he found it when he partnered with a traveling magician. He would supply and handle tigers for the stage illusions.
And this is where he discovered the core of the exploitation model. He realized the magic show itself was basically just free advertising for the real moneymaker.
That's the essential mechanism of the whole operation. He learned very quickly that the audience wasn't really there for the magic.
They wanted to get close to the animals.
They were willing to pay hundreds of dollars to pet a tiger cub and get a picture taken.
Yeah.
These cub petting events were, as our sources state, exponentially more lucrative than any ticket sales.
And that realization shifted the entire focus of the zoo.
The whole operation moved towards relentless high-volume breeding.
And the economics of cub petting, they're inherently exploitative.
Yeah.
Can you explain why that model demands cruelty?
It's all based on a biological window. A tiger cub is only small enough, docile enough, and, arguably safe enough for direct human contact for about 12 weeks. 3 months.
And after that?
Once they grow past that size, they become too dangerous and too expensive to handle. So to keep that revenue coming in, the zoo had to maintain a perpetual breeding cycle.
Which created a massive problem. What do you do with the older tigers?
Exactly. What do you do with the older, no longer marketable, but still very expensive juvenile and adult tigers? They were effectively the waste products of the commercial petting cycle.
And this is the dark engine that required the whole Joe Exotic character. To keep public interest up and fund the ever-growing facility.
It absolutely necessitated the flashy persona, the jewelry, the theatrics, the trademark bleached mullet.
It wasn't just personality, it was calculated branding.
It was. Designed to monetize the exotic animal trade through constant public appearances, the persona was the conduit for the cash flow.
But even with all that money from cub petting, the cost of feeding hundreds of large carnivores must have been relentless.
It was, and this led directly to some deeply disturbing methods to cut costs, which formed the basis of his animal abuse charges.
Let's talk about the meat sourcing, because it really highlights the desperation and the sheer neglect at that zoo.
It is truly shocking. He would take in donated horses, sometimes dozens at a time, which he would then shoot and feed whole to the big cats.
Then there was the Walmart meat.
He relied heavily on expired, discarded meat from Walmart to sustain the entire menagerie. This meat, often deemed unfit for human consumption, was the lifeblood of the zoo's diet.
I remember a particularly grim detail from the sources about that expired meat. It wasn't just the animals eating it.
That's the most disturbing layer of this exploitation. The pay for employees was extremely low. Sources cite as little as $150 a week.
So they were desperate.
So many of the zoo employees were forced to rely on that same expired Walmart meat for their own food.
Oh my God.
And what's more, employees sometimes even used this discarded meat to make pizzas that were then sold to unsuspecting customers visiting the park.
That's unbelievable. It paints a picture of systemic, desperate neglect that affected everyone there, the animals and the marginalized people he employed.
It does. Given that level of neglect, I imagine the USDA was involved long before the Carole Baskin feud escalated.
They were. The official scrutiny began early. The GW Zoo was cited multiple times by the USDA starting in 2006 for various violations of the Federal Animal Welfare Act.
And these weren't just minor paperwork issues.
No, these were persistent, documented failures in housing, veterinary care, and sanitation. It showed years of substandard conditions.
We should also mention an earlier incident before the zoo was even fully established back in 1999 in Texas. It involved emus.
Yes, this was in Red Oak, Texas. Exotic had volunteered to capture a large number of neglected emus and bring them to his park.
But corralling those birds proved to be impossible without them getting hurt.
Right, several animals died in the attempt. Ultimately, Exotic and another man just. They resorted to killing the remaining emus with shotguns to stop the chaos.
Was he charged with cruelty for that?
Local police initially accused them of animal cruelty, but a grand jury declined to indict.
Why was that?
Because, in Texas at that time, emus were legally classified as livestock.
So they could be killed legally.
Right. The incident just shows an early readiness to use extreme, lethal measures when dealing with animal control problems.
Beyond the zoo itself, the Joe Exotic persona expanded into this completely manufactured entertainment career, specifically country music.
He presented himself as this rugged performer, but the reality was very different from his music videos.
The reality is that his music career was a facade. It was built on deception. He genuinely wanted to be a country singer, but he didn't have the talent.
So what did he do?
He commissioned country songs from other artists, often saying it was for a reality TV show he was planning. His actual involvement was limited to suggesting topics, maybe singing some minor backing vocals.
The real work happened in the video production.
Precisely. He used those professional recordings to create these high-production music videos starring himself as the main performer.
And he posted them on YouTube.
Taking full sole credit for the vocals, allegedly without ever telling or compensating the actual artists who sang and wrote the songs.
It was another layer of calculated projection to enhance his celebrity.
Absolutely. His best-known track is I Saw a Tiger. He released albums like I Saw a Tiger in 2014 and Starstruck in 2015. And even from prison, he's found a way to keep this up, releasing an album called Jungle Rhapsody in 2023.
So whether it's his origin story, his business, his music, the common thread is a profound manipulation of reality to create a marketable persona.
And even before the Netflix fame, he wasn't completely unknown.
That's true. He was in Louis Theroux's 2011 BBC documentary, America's Most Dangerous Pets. He was already building a brand.
And he leveraged his zoo for other media, like pro wrestling. He was a commentator and host for wrestling programs held right there at the GW Zoo, starting around 2010. He was just constantly building his brand, desperately seeking that mainstream attention.
We transition now into the intense, years-long feud with Carole Baskin, the mysterious fire, and the inevitable criminal conviction that followed.
This rivalry is the axis on which his entire downfall turns. It began in earnest around 2009.
And Carole Baskin, through her organization Big Cat Rescue, wasn't just a competitor, she was an activist.
She was, with a singular goal, ending commercial cub petting nationwide. And since Exotic's entire revenue stream depended on that, Baskin was an existential threat to the GW Zoo.
Her strategy wasn't about attacking the zoo physically, it was purely financial.
And it was incredibly effective. She mobilized a huge network of volunteers. They would track Exotic's traveling shows, the malls, the fairgrounds.
Then what?
They would execute what they called email bombs, coordinated mass emails to the venue managers, citing his USDA violations and explaining the cruelty of cub petting.
And this worked.
It successfully convinced countless venues to cancel his shows, which caused significant immediate damage to his finances.
And Exotic's reaction wasn't to change his business model. It was to escalate the personal attacks.
To an obsessive level. He built a crude TV studio at the zoo and used his YouTube channel to host a nightly talk show dedicated to just vitriolic, bizarre attacks against Baskin.
He even chartered a helicopter to film her property at one point.
Yes, in 2010, it moved very quickly from a business rivalry to a deep, consuming personal obsession.
And he infamously weaponized the disappearance of Carole Baskin's second husband, Don Lewis.
He did. Don Lewis disappeared in 1997. Exotic used his platform to relentlessly promote theories that Baskin was involved, offering a $10,000 reward.
And we must pause here, showing sympathy for the victim, Carole Baskin, to state clearly that evidence of foul play is lacking, and Baskin was never named a suspect by law enforcement.
That's right. Exotic used this family tragedy purely to generate controversy and undermine his rival's credibility.
The feud eventually moved into civil court over a trademark dispute.
Yes. In 2011, Exotic tried to confuse the public by rebranding his show as Big Cat Rescue Entertainment.
A clear attempt to undermine her.
Absolutely. Baskin sued him for trademark infringement, and the court awarded her a $1 million settlement,
which Exotic immediately tried to avoid paying.
He filed for bankruptcy, and crucially, he fraudulently transferred the GW Zoo to his mother to shield it from Baskin.
A move the courts later invalidated.
Yes, they ruled it a fraudulent conveyance, which is what allowed Baskin to eventually gain control of the property.
Then there was the fire in 2015, where a major piece of potential evidence was lost.
On March 26, 2015, a fire destroyed the TV studio where he kept all his show footage. Most tragically, all but one of the alligators he had from Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch died.
He blamed activists, of course.
He did. But the claims from his former reality TV producer, Rick Kirkham, are chilling.
What did Kirkham say?
Kirkham asserted that the fire was deliberately set to destroy the video footage he had. And the reason was horrifying. Kirkham claimed he had video evidence of Exotic killing animals for fun. He said he saw Exotic walk up to a tiger he didn't like and just shot it in the head. If that's true, the fire was arson to cover up severe premeditated animal cruelty.
And this volatility brings us directly to the criminal path. His threats against Carole Baskin went from YouTube rants to an actual criminal conspiracy.
The legal focus is on November 2017. He solicited two separate individuals to murder Baskin, offering them several $1,000s.
And one of them was an FBI informant.
He was, which effectively put Exotic under direct federal surveillance. This led to his arrest in September 2018.
And when it went to trial, the jury's decision was swift.
In April 2019, they found him guilty on the 2 counts of hiring someone to murder Baskin, but they also convicted him on 17 federal wildlife charges.
Let's clarify those because they're crucial.
Yeah.
What did the Lacey Act and Endangered Species Act violations cover?
This is a vital point. The Endangered Species Act is straightforward. It protects threatened species. For Exotic, it meant he couldn't kill or sell protected tigers. The fact he was convicted of killing 5 tigers just to make space for more profitable cubs is a direct, egregious violation.
And the Lacey Act. That was a bit more complex.
The Lacey Act is about combating illegal wildlife trafficking. It makes it a federal crime to deal in illegally harvested wildlife. For Exotic, this was about falsifying records for animals he sold across state lines. He was hiding the true nature of his transactions.
So it was systemic fraud on top of the animal cruelty.
Exactly. The initial sentence in January 2020 was 22 years in federal prison.
He appealed that, and the murder-for-hire counts were consolidated. Why did that happen?
A U.S. appeals court ruled in 2021 that the 2 counts, one for the initial hitman and one for the FBI informant, should have been treated as a single count.
Because it was all part of the same criminal objective.
Right. Under federal guidelines, they should be grouped together for sentencing.
So that reduced his sentence.
It did, but only minimally. In January 2022, he was resentenced to 21 years, a reduction of only 1 year.
Which really shows the severity of the combined crimes.
It does. His current release date is projected for 2036.
And what was the ultimate fate of the GW Zoo property?
The court awarded ownership directly to Baskin. She took possession and made a definitive decision. She sold the land, but with permanent deed restrictions, meaning the property can never again be used for housing or exhibiting exotic animals. It ended the zoo's legacy permanently.
What about the remaining animals?
His former partner, Jeff Lowe, tried to relocate them, but in May 2021, federal authorities seized the remaining cats from Lowe's care due to his own history of poor animal care. It was a complete institutional collapse.
Section 4 shifts our focus to the ongoing, chaotic political campaigns Joe Exotic launched, both before and during his incarceration. It's almost unbelievable that he was a serious political candidate.
It really speaks to the American spectacle. His first notable attempt was in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. He ran as an independent.
How seriously did he pursue this?
Seriously enough to get on the ballot in Colorado, his campaign was fueled by his theatrical YouTube videos. He supported Donald Trump while attacking his rivals, like Carole Baskin.
And how did he do?
He got 962 votes nationwide. But he got enough notoriety that John Oliver featured his campaign on Last Week Tonight. The absurdity was already gaining traction.
And then he focused on a local race in Oklahoma.
In 2018, he ran in the Libertarian primary for governor. He got 664 votes, which put him in last place.
And the Libertarian Party was not happy.
They officially censured him during the campaign. And after his arrest, they unanimously voted to revoke his party membership entirely.
And even from prison, he's continued these campaigns.
For the 2020 and 2024 presidential elections, yes. His commitment to it is a testament to his obsession with public attention.
He switched parties in 2024, didn't he?
He did. He initially filed as a Libertarian, got criticized, and then in April 2023 announced he'd run as a Democrat instead.
And that didn't last long either.
Not at all. By August 2024, he suspended his campaign and endorsed Donald Trump. And just recently, in November 2024, he said he identifies as an independent voter.
The shifting labels seem less about ideology and more about hoping for a pardon.
That brings us to the highly publicized pardon efforts. Securing one from President Trump became an all-consuming effort for him and his support group, Team Tiger.
They delivered a massive document to the Department of Justice.
A 257-page document, yes. The anticipation was just astonishingly high.
And there's that legendary anecdote about the chartered limousine.
Yes, on January 19, 2021, the day before Biden's inauguration, Team Tiger chartered a massive white limo in Fort Worth, waiting near the prison, completely prepared for his release.
But he wasn't pardoned.
He was not. After that failed, he redirected his efforts to seek a pardon from President Biden as well. The cycle just continues.
Moving to the reality of his confinement, he's at the Federal Medical Center in Fort Worth. What's his health been like?
It's been a constant crisis. He's claimed a history of 4 heart attacks. During the COVID pandemic, he was quarantined, though he didn't contract the virus.
But the health struggles got much more serious.
They did. He reported a blood immune disorder. And most critically, in May 2021, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer.
An aggressive form, right?
He feared it had spread to his pelvis. He was transferred to a specialized facility in North Carolina for treatment before being moved back to Fort Worth.
So he's battling a life-threatening illness while incarcerated.
Yeah.
And there were even recent issues with the prison environment itself.
Yes. In October 2024, he was reportedly quarantined due to a scabies outbreak in his housing unit. His physical health struggles have become a persistent part of his narrative.
Yet despite all that, he continues to seek revenue streams and media exposure.
His ability to monetize his celebrity is relentless. He wrote an autobiography, Tiger King, the official tell-all memoir, which came out in 2021.
And he's tried to fund his legal defense.
With a cryptocurrency called Tiger King Coin and an NFT auction, which included one of his revolvers.
And he even found a way to start a new, bizarre feud from prison.
This is the ultimate example of the persona overriding reality. In September 2023, he threatened legal action against Florida State quarterback Jordan Travis.
For what?
Alleging that the athlete was infringing on his Tiger King trademark, he offered any attorney 80% of the settlement to take the case.
In our final section, we look beyond the legal drama to his personal life and the often chaotic and dark context of his complex relationships.
It's vital to remember that Exotic, who is gay, is also an ordained minister. It allowed him to officiate marriages, though not all of his partnerships were legally formalized.
And his relationships often mirrored the volatile environment of the zoo.
Let's start chronologically with his earlier partners, beginning with Brian Ryan.
He died tragically.
In 2001, from complications related to HIV. After that, he began a relationship with J.C. Herpence. But that relationship deteriorated quickly.
Due to substance abuse issues.
That, combined with the general volatility of the park, and the end of that relationship was extremely violent.
The sources describe a horrifying end.
The final confrontation happened after Exotic threatened to kill Hartpence and feed his remains to a tiger.
And Hartpence's response
Was to reportedly wake Exotic up by putting a gun to his head. This led to Hartpence's arrest. And sadly, Hartpence later went on to be convicted of child molestation and first-degree murder in an unrelated case.
It just shows the dangerous environments Exotic was operating in. That sets a disturbing precedent for the partnerships that followed, including John Finlay and Travis Maldonado.
John Finlay was hired as an employee in 2003, and they started a relationship. Years later, Travis Maldonado arrived at the zoo and also began a relationship with Exotic.
And they had a three-way wedding ceremony.
An unofficial one, yes.
Yeah.
Finlay's relationship with Exotic eventually fractured, leading to Finlay's arrest after a physical altercation.
Exotic legally married Travis Maldonado in 2015, but that relationship ended in profound tragedy.
Yes. On October 6, 2017, Travis Maldonado fatally shot himself at the zoo. It happened in front of Exotic's campaign manager, Joshua Dial.
Exotic started a charity in his name.
The Travis Maldonado Foundation, supposedly for meth addiction and gun safety education. But even the memorial service became another bizarre spectacle.
It was highly unsettling.
He made a series of profoundly strange and inappropriate statements about Travis. In one comment, Exotic remarked that Maldonado's testicles were like golden nuggets to him.
It shows an inability to process grief normally. He filtered a tragedy through a lens of public performance.
And soon after Maldonado's death, he married Dylan Passage.
Very quickly, December 11th, 2017, Travis Maldonado's own mother was a witness.
Passage later revealed that the relationship devolved into control and abuse. He said Exotic prevented him from having friends or seeing family, isolating him completely.
Passage's later reflections really show the emotional toll.
After their divorce was finalized, Passage released a video detailing the abuse. He said he felt like another animal in a cage at the zoo.
How did Exotic respond?
With characteristic anger from prison, blocking Passage on social media.
And he's continued to seek partnership even while serving his sentence.
Despite everything, he announced his engagement to a fellow inmate, Jorge Marquez, in October 2024. They married in April 2025.
But that was disrupted almost immediately.
1 month later, Marquez was released and deported to Mexico. The cycle of intense, volatile, and quickly severed relationships just continues, even from behind bars.
This deep dive has allowed us to synthesize the complex, media-saturated life of Joe Exotic, ensuring we move past the spectacle to the foundational facts.
We've seen the arc, from a background in law enforcement and a painful rift with his family, to establishing a zoo as a memorial for his brother.
A memorial that quickly became a financially desperate operation sustained by an exploitative business model.
Cub petting, which relied on a relentless breeding and the use of discarded meat, putting both animals and employees at risk.
And the Joe Exotic character was ruthlessly cultivated for profit.
But it was that same character that drew the relentless, organized ire of Carole Baskin that led directly to the escalating feud, the fraud, and ultimately the murder-for-hire plot.
The legal specifics are undeniable. He's serving a 21-year sentence, reduced only minimally after 2 murder-for-hire counts were consolidated.
And that's combined with 17 counts of federal wildlife crime, including fraud under the Lacey Act and the illegal killing of endangered animals. He's fighting serious health issues while continuing his desperate political efforts from his prison cell.
For you, the listener, the goal was to take this immensely complicated narrative and distill the core, verifiable facts. We provided the true history of the zoo, the reality of the business model, and the undeniable facts of his criminal conviction.
The key element unearthed across all sources is the power of a manufactured persona to mask profound instability, systematic cruelty, and calculated criminal activity.
As we conclude this deep dive, consider the application of this knowledge. Think about the immense power of viral media to transform and amplify figures, for better or worse, regardless of the underlying facts.
And consider the importance of understanding the legal frameworks, like the Lacey Act, that govern the treatment and commerce of wildlife.
Thank you for joining us for this in-depth analysis of the facts surrounding Joseph Maldonado. We'll see you on the next deep dive.